Namangan, December 1990, testimony of an eyewitness, Uzbekistan. On December 3, 1990, in the city of Namangan, local residents burned 5 Russian soldiers. According to the official version, it all began with a domestic conflict. 5 soldiers of the internal troops of the USSR Ministry of Internal Affairs were riding home on leave in a bus. They were drunk soldiers from the Ministry of Defense. In the bus, they behaved like animals. They molested the girls, insulted them, groped them. People were outraged. A fight broke out. Someone shouted, "The soldiers are raping women!" And people went out into the street to defend their own. Within minutes, a crowd of several thousand gathered around the bus. The soldiers were beaten, then doused with gasoline, set on fire. My name is Pulat Akhunov. In December 1990, I was a deputy of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR and one of the leaders of the democratic movement Birlik. We were fighting for freedom, justice, and the right of the people of Uzbekistan to be masters in their own land. That is why I found myself at the epicenter of events that could have become the beginning of a great tragedy. On the evening of December 3rd, I was in Shakrikan. Communication was weak then, no internet, no mobiles. We received a call from Namangan. One of our activists, in an agitated voice, reported, "The soldiers, they're drunk, they were harassing girls in a bus, people couldn't stand it, a fight started, they beat them, then they burned them." The next day, the whole city erupted. The Soviet army, the same one that today fires on Ukraine, began shooting at the crowd, without warning, indiscriminately. People began to die in the streets. This was no longer a fight in a bus. This was a war against its own people. On the morning of December 4th, I went to Namangan together with Akbarali Aripov, the head of Birlik from Shakrikan. We headed straight for the central square. Thousands of people stood there. Anger, grief, expectation of new trouble. Around the perimeter, soldiers with rifles. Their fingers were on the triggers. I saw it. In the square, I found our Birlik members, Nosir Zokirov, the poet Yodgor Obid, and Mahmud Inakov. He had already written the poem Ota Otit Vachalar, Shoot, Shoot, Dogs, in memory of the dead. His voice sounded like the voice of the whole street, tired but furious. I was told that a headquarters had been set up near the square. Generals had flown in from Moscow, officers of the USSR Ministry of Defense. I went there as a deputy of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR. But soldiers blocked my way. They pointed rifles right at my chest. I calmly but firmly said, "I am a deputy. I have a mandate signed by Mikhail Gorbachev. If you do not let me through, you will be breaking the law and will answer before a tribunal." The soldiers hesitated. Then they called the senior officer. In the end, they let me in. Inside the headquarters, shouting, swearing, fear. One of the generals lost his temper. "I didn't come all the way from Moscow to listen to Basmachs, I'll shoot them all." I stepped forward. "Don't call us Basmachs. A Basmach is an invader. An Uzbek cannot be an invader in his own home. You came here with weapons. You are acting like occupiers." The general got worked up and began to shout, "Do you think I'll forgive you for burning my soldiers? I will lay you all out on this square." The situation was somewhat calmed by the deputy chairman of the government of Uzbekistan, Ismail Jurabekov. He was between a rock and a hard place. On one side, Moscow, thirsty for blood. On the other, his own people, ready for anything. He told me quietly, "This generally, he wants to set an example. He thinks that if they shoot, Uzbeks will shut up." I replied, "If you give the order to shoot, it will be a massacre. And this republic will no longer be the same. Allow me to speak with the people." We reached an agreement. The soldiers pulled back for a while. I returned to the square. With the people, we discussed the main demand, the immediate release of all those arrested the night before. I proposed, "We will form a delegation and visit all the police stations. If the authorities agree, we will disperse." The crowd supported it. I went back to the headquarters. I voiced the conditions. We argued for a long time. We shouted. In the end, they agreed. Jurabekov called the Minister of Internal Affairs, and we began the rounds. We visited all the detention centers. The released were met with shouts, tears, clenched fists. When people saw that their relatives were alive, the tension began to subside. The crowd slowly, step by step, began to disperse. We stopped the massacre, without shooting, without blood. Although that morning everything pointed to the fact that they would simply level us to the ground. Now, years later, I understand. On that day, two worlds collided. The old, with rifles, orders, fear, and the new, with anger, but also with a voice. We gave that voice a chance to be heard. That day we managed to stop the massacre. But Russia has not changed. Everything that did not happen in Namangan then happened in Bucha, Irpin, Mariupol, with the same rifles, with the same hatred.